So you came to University of Hawaii, right? A graduate
Yep.
assistant for a couple years. Did you stay here a little while after?
Yeah, I was there. I was
Okay.
there for about 6.5 years or 6 years longer. I was a grad assistant for 3.5.
Yes.
And that's the other thing too. The grad assistants, they're only supposed to be there for 2 years. And then Tommy was like, you can add another year if you want. And I was like, okay. And then we did that year, and I was just kind of like waiting for him to say something. And then one day he was like, he goes, we could probably only push this one more semester because they're starting to ask me questions. And I was like, okay. So I was there for another semester. And then I was on Oahu for about 6 more years after that. I worked at Hickam Air Force Base, and I worked in a lot of other high schools as kind of like a freelancer,
Okay.
helping the high school kids. I got a couple kids into the college game and whatnot. And then I trained the Von Best the 3 years that he was at the University of
Oh,
Hawaii.
yes.
So getting him into the NFL, that was a pretty big deal.
Yeah, working with all of these different athletes, great people too. And
Yeah.
after your stop in Hawaii, and you still say that you come to Hawaii very frequently to give yourself a little
Yeah.
break, right? A little breathing room. But after your stop in Hawaii, where did you end up after that? And how did this kind of transform into what you're doing right now?
Okay. So we're going to go backwards for a quick minute and then we'll go
Okay.
forwards. I'm mentioned to you that, I was 14 years old and I go into the gym and I start squatting with terrible form.
Mhm.
And I was a big basketball player at the time too, and football player. So I was using my lower body a lot, but I wasn't strengthening it. By the time I was 15 years old, I had pain in both knees, a lot of it.
Mhm.
Okay. And every year it just got worse and worse and worse. So by the time I'm 30, okay, I'm just completely fed up with the pain. And
Mhm.
I drown my sorrows in a couple of beers. And then I say, you know what? Like, you have a master's degree in kinesiology. If somebody else can't fix you, you should have the knowledge to fix yourself. So that's what I did. I started reaching out to other people to see if they could help me based off of the condition that I felt I had.
Mhm.
Okay. And after a couple of years, to the tune of nearly 30 to $40,000 of trying to pay people to help me, I
Mhm.
realized that nobody knew what the problem was. Everybody was just guessing.
Mhm.
And I then needed to fix myself. So as I started to research my own and really figure out what was going on with me, I started to take my own pain away. Okay. And that translated because at the time I still identified myself as a strength and conditioning coach. The athletes that I would work with at specific high schools on Oahu, they would come in. Maybe they had like a twisted ankle. Maybe they got a stinger. Maybe they jammed a thumb. They got a bum elbow or their knee starting to hurt when they squat. And I would just say, hey, you want me to take a look at that for you? And
Mhm.
they'd be like, what do you mean take a look at it? I'm like, you want me to see if I can help you? And they'd be like, why can you? And everything would get like super weird. And I'd be like, yeah, let me just come on over here. Let me check this out. And I would start to just feel their musculature. And if there were any outliers, if there was something that was tight, if there was something that was painful, if there was a lump or a bump or something like that, I would apply pressure and a little bit of heat in the form of friction.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, these people would start to feel better
Mhm.
and their problems would go away the way that mine were going away. Now, I didn't understand how people don't know about this because for me, the pain was never in my knees, it was in my quadriceps. And when I
Mhm.
applied pressure into my quadriceps, I got the same knee pain that I did when I would run, jump, or squat.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, the pain isn't in the joint, the pain is in the musculature. And your brain is in your neurofascial system are trying to tell you to stop using your leg, not to
Mhm.
stop using your knee.
Yeah.
They're trying to stop you from using your leg because the quad is damaged. The
Mhm.
muscle tissue, the fascia in the quad is damaged.
Mhm.
And, that was the light bulb moment for me. So when I left Hawaii because my mother ended up getting a really terrible uterine cancer. I was like, okay, I'm not going to let you go through chemo or all these other things alone. So I quit my job in Hawaii. I moved to Colorado. And when my mom went into remission and she was fine, that was about 6 months later. That's when Devon called me up and he said, "Hey man, you want to come and work for me?" And I said, "You're in Miami?" "Absolutely." So I came down here, and that 4 years that I worked for Devon here in Miami was what really opened up my soft tissue, my savviness with the body, and what I do as a body worker. My understanding of the soft tissue began there, because I would work on him and I would work on some of his teammates. And these guys would literally come to me on a Friday and say, "I need to play this Sunday because it's my contract year. Mm-hmm. And I got this guy behind me breathing down my neck. So if I miss this game, he's going to step in." Mm-hmm. And then, I lose money, yada, yada. So I'd work on these guys for 2.5, 3 hours at a time. Okay. I mean, I'd be completely exhausted when I was done. And that was me just putting the pieces together, just figuring out this puzzle that is the human body. I had guys that literally just did not care what I did for them. All they knew was that Devon told them I would get rid of his pain every single time. Okay. And they didn't care about anything else. They would just show up and be like, "Fix my hamstring," or "Fix my shoulder," or whatever. I was getting an education in real time once again. Okay. Wasn't reading anything about a book or reading about anything in a book. I didn't have anybody else's perception of how the human body worked corrupt my own perception. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I had to think for myself a lot of times. And it didn't matter what somebody said hurt. If they asked me if I dealt with it before, I always said yes. Mm-hmm. "Do you know how to get rid of this?" "Yes, I do." "Come on in." And what I would do is a whole bunch of research and figure it out beforehand. And then I would see if that thesis kind of stuck.
Yes.
Sometimes it did, sometimes it didn't. And I would have to improvise and figure things out. But what that did was it constantly gave me a map of what is going on in the body in real time. Okay. And I started to, I don't want to say at a very young age, but I started to, as like, not somebody who's a scientist or in the science community, or not somebody who has published papers or something like that. I started to understand what was mechanistically true in the human body when it came to pain. And once again, it's just this completely wild concept that nobody else is talking about. Mm-hmm. And I was like, if you're trying to develop speed and power, why wouldn't 10 sets of 3 is going to be a fantastic way to get there. But is that something that you do all the time? No, it's plug and play. Mm-hmm. When you put it in the specific program at the specific times, it can be a wonderful complement to get somebody more powerful. Okay. But then, you would see a lot of coaches that would be doing this year round. And I'm like, It doesn't work like that. So then I start to get into body work and getting rid of adhesions and, scarring down tissue that's been causing pain for 5, 10, 15 years. Mm-hmm. And everything's supposed to be like, foam rolling isn't supposed to hurt. Massage isn't supposed to hurt. Mm-hmm. If you're getting rid of pain in the body, it's not supposed to hurt more. And I'm finding that when I release tissue in somebody, they can be even in even more pain or more soreness for about 3 days. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then at the end of that 3 days, as the body recalibrates, the pain is like 70 or 80% reduced. And they're just like, "I don't understand this." Well, we're always told massage shouldn't hurt, you shouldn't be in more pain. But sometimes when people are, that's when I get the best results.
Yes.
So how can you deny that? How can you say that? How can I sit there and be like, "This is wrong, I shouldn't be doing this." Mm-hmm. Right. But with the people that a majority of the people that I've had work on me, 15 minutes into the session, I already know that I'm throwing my money away. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, you're not doing, and you're not using methods that are mechanistically true to what happens in the body when you're trying to eliminate pain. Mm-hmm. And it's very, very simple, but at the same time, just incredibly complex. And the only thing that you can do is just experiment and work on the body for as long as you can. And you'll start to figure it out yourself.
Yes. There's tons of great things that you said there. And I know there's a lot of overlap too. And one of the things that I first want to break down is that I like how you're blending your world of experience. And this even goes back into like the strength and conditioning side, because just understanding movement too, I know that's giving you a lot of understanding as to how am I going to attack this? Like they're having pain here. This is what they do. This is what their workout regimen's like. This is what they're doing in their sport, right? That's all information for you too. But you're blending all of this experience that you have from strength and conditioning, from the soft tissue work. And like you said, you do tons of research, right? And it's not only doing the research, but you have to have some kind of conceptual knowledge or logic that you're going off of, especially when it comes to the human body. Because like you said, a lot of these concepts are simple.